Hello, my name is Justin Escamilla, and today I will be talking about the No Child's Left Behind Act. Okay, so why was the No Child Left Behind Act passed? The No Child Left Behind Act was passed to design and address the concern that the American education system was lagging behind its international competitors by holding schools responsible for both student performances and mandated standardized tests and minimum performance benchmarks. So basically what was happening was that kids were not meeting the standards that they needed to on the standardized tests that teachers were giving out, and people were upset about this. And what had happened was they started this act because they wanted to fix that problem. So what does the No Child Left Behind Act do? The law held schools accountable for how schools learned and achieved. The law was controversial in part because it penalized schools that did not show improvement. So it basically just holds people accountable for making sure that your students are always improving in their education, so that everybody's basically on the same level before they move on in the next grade. And they say that it's controversial because schools can get in trouble if they're not showing any type of improvement for the children. Since it is called like the No Child Left Behind Act, like everybody has to be together. So what does it protect? Students and parents, it protects students and parents. So students and parents with the right to be informed about and opt out of the in-school collection of students' personal information. So it basically protects the students and parents, but it does also protect their personal information with being shared everywhere to anybody who does not need it. Who is it for? The grade levels that it usually covers are kindergarten through grade 12 in the United States. When did it pass? It passed in 2002. President Bush signed the bipartisan for the No Child Left Behind Act. The amendment years are the 107th Congress, 2001 to 2002. Legal provisions. The No Child Left Behind Act requires states to implement a minimum performance benchmarks for students, schools, and districts on standardized testing. School districts were required to meet performance goals as prerequisites to receive federal funding. So in order to get funding for the schools, these kids need to pass their benchmarks and standardized tests. And that's the way that legally for the federal funding, that's how they all know who's like actually working with their students and who's not, or who's working harder. Disabilities that it protects. The No Child Left Behind Act is an important legislation for students with learning disabilities. So it's all learning disabilities, people who have mental disabilities. The people who have mental disabilities, the people who have learning disabilities like dyslexia, just all kids, anybody who is in the school, they need to be equal on their grade level. Implications for teachers. So our results suggest that the No Child Left Behind Act led to increases in the teacher compensation and online Gakistan share of teachers with graduate degrees. We find evidence that the No Child Left Behind Act shifted the allocation of instruction time towards math reading subjects and targeted by the new accountability system. So Stanford actually did a overview of the No Child Left Behind Act. That's where I got this information. And it basically says that teachers will get, it says like compensation, but they're not talking about money. They're basically getting like the federal funding for their class, but it all is like, that's why it says that it's towards the reading and subjects targeted by the new accountability system. And the new accountability system is the accountability that they will keep the children on the path that they're supposed to be in. Who passed the law? So on January 8th, 2002, the law was actually passed by President George W. Bush because he signed the No Child Left Behind Act into the law. So reason for the movement to be passed into the law. So what was going on was that the kids were not marking where they were supposed to. And like how I had said in the beginning, that the kids weren't where they were supposed to. So sweeping the update, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 created new standards and goal for the national public schools and implemented thorough corrective measures for the students that failed to meet them. So students were failing to meet their goals in school. And in order to have those goals be met, they made this No Child Left Behind Act so that they have to meet their goals, basically. So accountability, who's accountable? The teachers are. The teachers would be held accountable for student progress, and then the school district is accountable for making sure that they take the test. So the school districts can perform all these tasks that are eligible for federal grants. Requirements for the state. So under the No Child Left Behind law, states must test students in math, reading, and science. This is for the grades 3rd to 8th grade, at least once in high schools, and the schools must report on the performances in different groups of students, such as the racial minorities, as well as the student population as a whole. Requirements specifically for Texas is that it is for targeted assistance to low-income schools, prevention and intervention programs for delinquent and at-risk students, enhancing technology, and safe and drug-free schools and communities. So you have to have these things if you're for the No Child Left Behind Act in Texas. Eligibility criteria. So key provisions in the No Child Left Behind Act states must implement and state assessment in reading and mathematics for the grades 3 through 8, and at least one for the grades 10 through 12, like I had said. And in science, at least one of the 3 grade spans from 3rd to 5th, 6th to 9th, and 10 to 12th. So implications for teachers. They have to possess a bachelor's degree, they have to be certified in the state that they were teaching, and they have to have proven knowledge for the base subject and area in which they teach your child. How can it be implicated in the classroom? So there are 4 pillars of the No Child Left Behind Act. There is accountability for results. There's an emphasis on doing what works based on scientific research, expanded parental involvement and options, and expanded local control and flexibility. Possible accommodations for students and employees. So accommodations are generally grouped into the following categories. There's presentation, response, timing and scheduling, and setting. So in presentation, it's repeating directions, it's reading out loud, using larger bubbles on answer sheets. For response, there's marking answers in a book or using references, points, or the use of computers. Timing and scheduling is extended times or breaks. And then settings is like a study area, special lighting in the classroom, and separate rooms for different testing groups. Rehabilitation. Oh, okay. And then these are different laws that have to do with children and education and protecting children with disabilities or learning disabilities. So this is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So this is basically over disability discrimination. So it prohibits the discrimination based on disability in a program or an activity open and operated by recipients of federal funds. So the Education of the Handicapped Children's Act, it is guaranteed a free, appropriate public education for each child with a disability in every state and locality across the country. The Individuals with Disability Act it requires public schools to provide a free and appropriate public education to eligible students from the ages 3 to 21 with disabilities, and it protects students and their parents. Americans with Disabilities, this is a civil rights law that protects discrimination based on the disability, and every student succeeds at. This requires every state to measure and perform in reading, math, and science. And then these are my sources, and yeah, that's pretty much my entire presentation. Thank you so much for watching.